Charles Lindbergh is the most famous aviator in U.S. history. Lindbergh worked as a stunt pilot and wing walker around the Midwest before training with the Army and joining the Missouri National Guard in St. Louis. In 1926, the 24-year-old began flying mail routes from St. Louis to Chicago. The 278-mile trip included stops in Springfield and Peoria. In fact, there's a marker at the intersection of East High Point Road and East High Point Lane in Peoria, which is the location of the city's first airport. It says, near this marker, Charles A. Lindbergh landed his de Havilland biplane on the St. Louis-Chicago mail run 1926 to 1927, prior to his transatlantic flight. Lindbergh earned the nickname Lucky Lindy the hard way. 4 times as a pilot, he made emergency parachute jumps. 2 of those happened in the skies over central Illinois. On September 16, 1926, Lindbergh was on his way to Chicago but couldn't land due to heavy fog, and then he ran out of gas. He bailed out about 10 miles north of Ottawa in LaSalle County. It turns out a mechanic replaced the fuel tank with a smaller one and didn't bother telling Lindbergh. The LaSalle County Historical Society dedicated this marker in Weedron on the 75th anniversary of the crash in 2001. Less than 2 months later, visibility and weather would again become an issue. On November 11, 1926, Lindbergh couldn't land in Peoria, so he circled the area but was running out of fuel. He decided to find a sparsely populated area and parachute out. Flying 70 miles an hour at 13,000 feet in total darkness, Lindbergh jumped. He landed on a barbed wire fence surrounding a farm in McLean County near Covell, 6 miles west of Bloomington. Lindbergh told a newspaper reporter he walked about a mile to a general store where he asked a group of men, "Anyone hear a plane crash?" Lindbergh then got a ride to Bloomington, where he hopped on a train to Chicago, then flew back the next day to retrieve his mail. In 1977, this marker was erected on East 1000 North Road. It says, on a regular mail flight November 3, 1926, Charles A. Lindbergh parachuted near Covell, Illinois. His plane landed on the Charles Thompson Farm, 500 feet south of this marker. Documents at the McLean County Historical Museum show the incident made big headlines. If people didn't know about Charles Lindbergh then, they certainly would know 6 months later. That infamous night in 1926 wasn't even Charles Lindbergh's first crash, but the crash would happen, he survived, and then he went on shortly thereafter to make history.
And at 7:52, the Spirit of St. Louis began to roll down the muddy runway.
On May 20th, 1927, Lindbergh flew the Spirit of St. Louis from New York to Paris. He became the first person to make that specific non-stop solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. The 3,600-mile, 33.5-hour flight made him an instant celebrity and hero. As we approach the 100th anniversaries of these crashes, you can actually see parts of Lindbergh's crashed planes at the LaSalle County Historical Museum in Utica.